Someone goes into NOD, there's like vultures that go into this house and they start knocking on the doors and they start sending out letters. And I've heard people go up to a house and say, "Oh, Mr. Jones, you're in foreclosure. And if you don't sell the house now, you're going to lose it, and it's going to ruin your credit and all this stuff." Okay? How helpful is that? Not very. So when you're talking to people that are in foreclosure, pre-foreclosure, you have to recognize that they're stressed. Life has not been good to them. Something's happened. Okay? So you need to treat them with kid gloves. And a lot of times I tell, my team, when they're knocking on a door for a pre-foreclosure, "Hi, Mr. Jones, my name is Frank, and I'm here in the neighborhood. I have potential buyers that are looking for properties. And I was just wondering if you or someone you know in the neighborhood may be interested in selling a home at this point." Even though I know exactly what's happening. Now they may say, "Oh, no, I'm okay, I have no problems." And so at that point, what they'll do is they'll say something like, "Well, maybe I'm confused, but I did notice in the public records, and I might have the wrong address, but I think it was yours, that you've received a notice that the bank may potentially foreclose. Is that true?" Nice. I'm not being nasty. I'm just trying to help them. Because if it is, then I can offer you many, many options as to how we can potentially save your home, or get away, leave this home, and then leave it without having to pay any debt back. What's the chances of me having a conversation with that person versus, "You're in foreclosure, dude"? It doesn't work that way. So you have to be very careful and understand that. You need to do your homework before you do this stuff. You need to understand what's going on. When you meet the client, you need to know and find out why they're not making payments. Now, by the way, do they have to be underwater for them not to be making payments? No. Lost their job, divorce, somebody died in the family, someone's medically ill, maybe they got a job transfer to another state.
Accident.
Okay? Accident. A whole bunch of reasons why people need to possibly short sale or sell their home. Your job is to find out what that reason is, and then to try and help them.
What's the best way to get a hold of a seller like that? They're getting stacks of mail, and they're hiding from everybody. So direct mail is really good. Right?
No, that's why door knocking happens.
It has to do door knocking?
Yeah, that's really the best way at some point. Short sales, the best way to get a short sale is to knock on the door.
You have to be personal.
You have to meet them personally. You can try sending letters, and I'm not saying that they won't respond, but really the best way that I have found is knocking on doors. Okay? You need to do a title search. You need to do all this homework. Okay? Because there's a bunch of steps that have to happen. And if you do, by the way, in the state of California, you as an individual cannot do a short sale. It has to be done by a real estate agent. Okay? Make sure you understand that.
You can.
Huh?
I can do it as an investor.
As an investor, potentially, if you get an attorney involved. The laws have changed. So you have to know this. It's most cases, because if you do something stupid, then it could cause problems for the homeowner.
Yeah.
Yes, it can be done, but I would highly recommend that you get a real estate agent involved. Highly, highly, highly recommend. And someone who's done quite a few of them.
You don't want to start.
You don't, because if you don't know what to tell the bank, if you don't know the documents that they're looking for, if you don't know how to fill out the forms they're sending you, chances are you're going to screw it up. And many times where this has happened, where another agent who's only done 1 or 2 short sales, I took over that file, and I had to basically, it was a challenge, let's say that, but we got it done anyhow. Of all the short sales I've ever been involved in, I've only lost 1 to foreclosure. It's a pretty good record, wouldn't you say?
That's amazing.
It's amazing.
So,
It's amazing.
You being a broker, do you handle your own short sales thing?
I do.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. Because there's things that you have to do. You have to create, first of all, you have to understand what's going on. There's documents that you have to fill out. There's, you have to get 2 months of bank statements from the client, 2 months of tax returns. You have to show the reason. You have to be a hardship letter. The hardship letter can't go into a lot of detail. It has to be something like that. The bank is then going to want to get their own value, and they're going to order what's called a BPO. which is a broker price opinion. You have to know what that is. You have to know how to handle that, okay? If you're gonna do, if it needs work, you need to know how to communicate with this person doing the BPO to not make it sound and make him feel like he's a jerk. So you have to just know how to do this stuff. There's a right way and a wrong way. Okay, I'll give you an example. We had a property that was a drug house, pot house, okay? It was in Antelope.
Where?
Antelope, which is in Sacramento. And the owners had rented it out, and the renters left, stopped making payments, and he opened the door, and there were big freaking holes in the wall. You know, there was black mold everywhere. It was a mess. The house was a mess. So I walked in and knew right away what was going on. And so we started the short sale. We negotiated. We talked to the seller. He was very interested in getting rid of this property. But we had values in the area that were high, quite high. So we needed to prove to the bank and to the BPO agent that what needed to be done here was extraordinary. So we got 2 or 3 contractors out, got some bids, and then when the BPO agent came, I had these little masks, you know, respirators. I said, you can't go in. I won't let you in unless you put the respirator on. She goes, why? I said, you'll see. So she walks in, sees the black mold, sees all the holes, and walks out. I said, okay, what are you selling this for? That house, the values in the area were about $300,000. We picked it up for $96 grand. It only needed about $50,000 more.
You made $150,000 on that house?
The investor did, yeah.
Wow.
Nice. Yeah. I was only a partial piece of that. That was in my early days.
What do you think you average around here on short sales?
In this area?
Yeah, is there an average?
Each one's going to be different based on the amount of work that needs to be put into the property. So there's no way I could tell you. But typically, you want to get a short sale if you can purchase it. If you can get the bank to agree, you want to get it about 75% of what true value is, at a minimum or less.
That's what happened here in Santa Clara.
May not.
Yeah.
May not.
Usually the bank won't accept you. I believe, you know, the most is gonna be like 10% below the market value. That's the maximum.
Unless
that is something very wrong with
you
that.
can prove to them
Right.
that it's worth less.
Yeah.
And there are ways to do that.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of understanding the process.
Yeah.
Okay?
Sorry, you said 75% of which?
Of the ARV.
Of what they are true value.
Then you're going to get a counter offer from the bank because you're going to submit an offer and they're going to do their research, and it takes them, you know,
3 months.
some period of time. They're going to lose documents. So, and a lot of short sale agents get pissed off when that happens, and they call the person on the other end and say, I sent that damn thing to you 2 or 3 times. What are you doing? Why do you need it again? What's going on? I don't do that. I'm sorry that you lost it. I apologize. I thought I sent it to you. Maybe I didn't. Let me resend it to you. By the way, where am I calling? Are you in, you know, so I have a conversation with them. I need them to be my friend. If they're not my friend, I'm not going to be helped. The other thing that's very important, if you're doing a short sale, if the bank requests additional information, you need to get it to them within no more than 48 hours, period. Because what's going to happen? The person you're dealing with works for the bank at $15 an hour. They have your file and another 100 that they're working on, okay? Now, if they're requesting more information, they'll put it sort of to the side because they know that you're going to get back to them. If you don't get back to them, they're going to put it to that side, okay? So when you finally get it to them, they may lose it again. So you just need to know the process and recognize what you're doing. There'll be a payoff letter. There's a bunch of documents. When I submit a short sale file to the bank, I mean, it's that thick of information. There's a hardship letter, there's tax returns, there's, you know, stuff that I'm going to give them that's going to validate the price that I'm looking to get it at. And that process requires someone with experience and knowledge. If you have that, then all of a sudden it can make it happen. If the offer is accepted, when it is accepted, okay, then basically the purchase contract now takes effect. Because up to this point in time, everything was contingent on approval of the short sale. And there's actually a document that says that. Okay, so now the short sale is approved, and so now the purchase agreement takes effect. So now the seller has whatever period of time the bank gives them to close it. Sometimes it's 30 days, sometimes it could be as much as 2 months. They're going to give them a period of time to close. So all of a sudden, you then have to close within that period of time. If you cannot close within that period of time, or if something stupid happens, you have to start the whole process over again. Or they'll foreclose.
Why tax records?
Because that's what they want. They want to know that you have an issue. Depends on what the issue is. Now, if you've lost your job, they want to see, obviously you have no pay stubs, you're going to collect unemployment, they want to see that that's happening. They want to know that whatever hardship you're stating to them is in fact true.
It's hardship.
And then they're also going to confirm, when you give them their tax forms, you're going to fill out another form which allows them to look at the IRS to see if the tax form that you submitted to them is actually the true one. Again, they're going to lose money. And they're going to lose a lot of money in some cases. So they just want to make sure that they're losing it for a reason. Make sense? The other thing that you want to do, when a seller signs over their rights to me to negotiate on their behalf, I become an authorized third party. Okay? At which point I tell the seller very simply this: if the bank calls you, you are to say only this. Yes, thank you for calling. I understand I'm late. I have an agent who's working on a short sale. We've submitted our package to you, and we hope that you'll approve it as soon as possible. Thank you very much. If you want his phone number, let me give it to you. That's as much as they are allowed to say, because the bank is going to try and trick them and ask them, okay, so do you have any other income? Do you have, they're going to ask them questions. And if the seller talks to them at this point, they can screw it all up. I'm not going to lie to the bank, but I'm only going to submit to the bank the things that I know they can verify. Okay?
At one point, I have a bank calling the sellers, asking them about their son, if he was working, how much he was making, and he can cooperate with the payment, so that way they can get a loan modification
And then he said,
keep their homes.
And then he said,
yes, my son is working, he's making
so
this
the whole
much.
process gets killed.
Yep.
And then they find out that the income is really not enough to get a modification, and all of a sudden you're back to square one.
And they're foreclosed.
And they get foreclosed.
Yep.
Because the bank is not fooling around. They need to do something. This is a non-property for them. They're not making any money on it, and they need to make a decision. Okay? When a foreclosure, or when a short sale happens, in 95% of the cases, the seller must move. And the seller cannot benefit from this sale in any way. Neither can the agents involved in the sale. We have to all sign what's called a agreement that this is not going to happen. It's a hands-off agreement. Arm's length, sorry. Hands-off. They're attached.
Another broker in the room.
They're attached. So we all have to sign that agreement. And it's something that we have to do. So the seller must recognize that they are going to have to move. Banks these days are offering anywhere up to $10,000 for the seller to relocate.
Cash for keys?
Yeah, basically cash for keys. And because what I also tell the seller is that if you are going to be timely with me on the documents that I request, if the bank sees that you're actually going to work with them and that you seriously understand that you're in trouble and that you need to move on, then they may potentially give you up to $10,000 to relocate. Now, I can't guarantee that that's what you're going to get, but it's a guarantee that you're going to get at least $3 grand. Okay? Questions?
Back in the day.
And there were actually points where Chase Manhattan and some of the other banks were offering $50,000 and $60,000 and $70,000.
$80,000.
$80,000. Yeah, it's crazy. Yes, sir.
Third